Hey guys, I just wanted to kind of yap today about some ways that you can focus on improving your life if you are not where you want to be. Number one, I always say this, but find some kind of physical activity that you enjoy. I am a very type B person, and a lot of times I'll go through phases. So, one set of months I'll be really enjoying like a group fitness class, and then the next set I want to lift on my own. But I've learned that the more you do these activities, the more you're going to get self efficacy. And unfortunately, it can't get better until you just do it. So I started out my fitness journey by walking around the block. And I was like, there's no way I can lift. That just seems boring, difficult. I don't want to do it. And I will say, one day you will wake up snatched. Like, there will be a day where you wake up and you kind of start to notice all the progress you've been putting in. But it's not going to happen for a while. And for me, I would always quit before that happened. Another thing I really recommend you do, and all of this is kind of type B advice, but really try to think about what you're eating and if you can maximize it. I know protein is kind of the trendy word nowadays, but I think it's very important to view your diet in the macro food groups. So, like, for example, hydration. A lot of times I'm having coffee instead of water or just not drinking enough water. So, how can you maximize your hydration? Could you start bringing cut up fruit to work that you can eat? Or could you perhaps, carry a water? For me, I carry around a water bottle, and that incentivizes me more to be drinking it. Another thing is protein. So I notice a lot of times, especially when I'm busy, I lose my appetite and I'm eating like pizza. So, where can you insert more protein in your diet? One thing I really recommend is like a protein liquid. And I don't like protein powders. I find them to be not good. I don't like the creamy powder. So I found one of them, and it was like a tropical powder. And there's a lot of them nowadays where they make more of a water than a creamy beverage. So you can actually wake up and have that first thing in the morning, and then you will know that you've actually received some nourishment today. One thing where I really say that, like, what you hear is important is understanding that your health is your wealth. There is someone out there who would give $1 million just to be in the body you are right now that you're most likely not taking the best care of. When I'm around friends and we're all busy and we're working, it's very normalized to eat lots of junk food and treats. And it's even kind of seen as like a reward. Like, a lot of times I get a little coffee and it's a reward. But I really want you to take a step back. And when I talk about putting these items into categories, I want you to be asking yourself, what nourishment am I getting from every specific item? So, for example, am I, getting enough hydration in my day? What am I really spending my money on? I don't like meal planning, but I've noticed sometimes I'm more likely to go to the grocery store in the morning and pick out food for the day versus after work. I just do not want to do that. And if I don't have anything handy, I'm more likely to go get something from DoorDash. So, I really recommend just kind of, I'm not going to sit here and say meal prep for your week because I always hear this advice and it kind of goes in one ear and out the other. But if you're type B like me, I really recommend just kind of looking at what you're doing in a day. Like, what are you eating overall? Another thing I realized is, as much as it pains me to say it, eating out is really not that great of a value. You could go to the grocery store and get like a pre bottled coffee, a TV dinner that's healthy, a fruit, a treat, a soda, like a probiotic soda, and all of that's going to be about $20. And if you get food from the drive through, it's going to be like $20 for one meal that is not healthy. And the food you're eating from the grocery store, although it may not be that much healthier in our country, it's going to be a lot more, probably not high in calories as a fast food meal would be. So I want you to look and see, first of all, am I sabotaging myself in any aspect with my diet and exercise routine or lack thereof? I got a fitness planner from Blogilates that I really like, but you can honestly just use a notebook. And okay, listen, I'm not going to sit here and say journal because I personally don't like journaling for mental health. I think it can kind of cause you to ruminate on thoughts. And I think our society, while well meaning about mental health, it gets us in this cycle of ruminating and punishing ourselves. And I think sometimes the best way as an Aries to kind of have that momentum is to just go do things and try things and see what happens to you. Because I really think we don't tend to glamorize how much you can learn a lesson by going out in your community and seeing how it feels to be you in different spaces. A big thing I noticed with the gym is sometimes I think to myself, okay, after work, what would be the best use of my time? Cleaning up my house or going to the gym. And I notice I always pick the gym because I think just going somewhere and saying to yourself, oh, I'm going to put on my outfit, I'm going to go take a walk by the river, or I'm going to go play pickleball with a friend, or go lift weights for 30 minutes. Another big thing I've been working on, which I want to get better at, is telling myself I have like one podcast to do something. Or if I leave my house at 8, I say I will lift weights until 8:30. If I want to continue, I can. If I want to quit, I can. But I think often you need to just block out your time like a parent would for a child and say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to, just do it. Because I think saying I'm going to do this task implies that if you can't do it for the full duration or even an excessive duration, you did not make progress. I saw a post online the other day that said it's funny to call something baby steps when that's actually one of the biggest direction changes you can take into making a new life. Like you're absolutely throwing yourself into the deep end. I saw another really good flow chart that said if you take no action, you will get no result. But if you take some action, you might get no result or you might get some result. And I think the likely thing is even instead of no result, you might get just a slight result or you might get the biggest one of them all. There's so many things I've started where I wondered why I was putting it off that much. Another thing I want you guys to consider on a slightly deeper level is what aspects of your day-to-day life are zapping your energy. And I don't mean like, oh, I'm not sleeping enough. Obviously that. You need to be mindful of rest. For me, rest is not even negotiable. But again, you need to make it easy to do things that are good. So for me, I shower, I make sure I've eaten. If I ate a meal right before bed or I started a load of laundry, it might be hard for me to start, doing whatever else. But it's very important to set up almost like a mousetrap for yourself where it's a chain of events that are going to lead you to the desired outcome. I think they talk about that in Atomic Habits somewhat, like literally making a trap for yourself. But one thing I like to do is, around nighttime, turn on the sleep timer on YouTube and listen to a podcast so I can unwind and turn the lights off. I don't even notice how much just having the lights on has you like this. And when you turn them off, you're kind of unwinding. Stretching is so important. I notice people in the gym skip it. I notice people skip it at work. At any given point, it's good to stretch your shoulders. I notice so many people have back pain, hip pain, shoulder pain. I get a lot of tension up here, and stretching is a good option, but also like consciously lowering your shoulders, unclenching your jaw. I think these kind of holistic body movements are what's missing from our life where we're just so sedentary. And one thing I'm not quite informed about, but I've been getting really interested in lately is like releasing fascia in the body and ways of doing that because there's so many spots. And you notice how I'm sitting up more straight now, even after saying that. But there's so many spots in the body that are holding tension, and you'd be surprised how much that affects your confidence. It affects your nervous system. And one thing I've noticed when I'm in a flop era is everything goes so fast, it's like mechanical. And I think not everything needs to be done in a flow state. Like if you can wake up in the morning and brush your teeth and even think, I'm brushing my teeth right now, okay, I'm awake, and not just be wondering what's going to happen in the next moment. I remember there was a meme years ago where a girl was saying, while she reads her Bible, she's not on her phone and she's just spending time with God. And it became a meme because it was like funny the way she said it. But that's honestly the right idea. Like, we've got to get more into each moment being an aesthetic experience, because this also makes your lifestyle more divine and you more in your essence. So, on top of me explaining that that's not what I'm even talking about, what are things that drain your energy? I noticed a YouTuber I really like talking about how if she picks up a phone call sometimes while she's in the middle of something, it makes her not even want to finish doing it, and it kind of drains your energy subliminally. I want you to get really conscious, or if you do pick up that phone call, like, keep it short, don't complain. I've noticed too, I tend to ruminate or get in a spiral of negative ideas, and I have a very strict policy with myself that I try to totally not think about work when I'm not at work, so that when I am at work, I can give it my full attention. When I'm at work, I'm not on my phone, I'm not doing other things unless I've got literally everything else done. So I think it's very important to be conscious of those kind of things that could be stealing your energy, you know? Um, Another thing that I've been pondering lately is just that as a young adult that's losing the young part and more the adult part, you're going to go through so many phases, and a lot of people are unfortunately more temporary than you realize. And I think as a result, you need to 100% enjoy every moment you have with someone and not take it for granted. But in return for that, you've got to realize, like, sometimes a moment is just meant to be a moment. It might not be meant to be a lifetime, you know, it might just be meant to be something that was fun at the time. So that's why it's very important to be mindful in the moment and have gratitude. I look back with nostalgia on so many things I wish I enjoyed more in the moment, but I know deep in my core that they provided me what they needed to, and then I moved on. And that's really kind of what I'm emphasizing with this, you know. So ask yourself, what things about right now might make it the good old days? I know online on social media, a lot of people talk about, you know, looks maxing and how your appearance is a tool to get taken more seriously. And really, one thing I just want to clarify with that is I think the more you feel comfortable in yourself, the more you're going to look back on any given moment and be able to romanticize it. Another thing I'm trying to do as well is not focus as much on the negative aspects of my appearance. I think so many of us never celebrate the good parts, but we do ruminate on the bad ones. And it creates a dynamic where we're not able to celebrate who we are. And I think energy is so much of appearance. I notice how much it is not attractive energy when someone doesn't take care of themselves, or it's clear they're projecting, it's clear they're intimidated. Yeah. So I really want you to be mindful of how your own energy might be draining your life force on a day-to-day basis. Another thing I've realized that is really hard to convey, you know, and it's taken lots of podcasts and reflection for me to get here, but the more you give your energy away for free, the more worthless your energy is. And I've noticed how in the past I'd have dynamics or personal relationships where it just felt so endless, like we were always together, and not even bad, not even dating, just like anything, coworkers, friends, family. You need to make the time you spend with people meaningful and give them your full attention while you're with them. I think the issue in life nowadays is so many of us are spread so thin, where it's like you're in a meeting, you're on your phone, you're planning this, you're doing that, you know, you're at dinner, you're on the phone with work. It's like you're never at one place at one time. And I've processed recently, like, and by recently I mean probably the past goodness knows how many months. When I'm at an event, what is the goal? You know, I like to dress nice because I want to feel good and be happy. I want to mingle with people, I want to enjoy, but I like to really take a moment to view it as a picture, like as a memory I'm going to look back on. Because so many times in a moment, you're not even living the moment. Like, I look back on photos of all these cool places I went with cool people I don't talk to anymore, and I ask myself, where was I in that moment? Or, these were the good old days. And I think truly we always have freedom, but we like give ourselves constraints as to why we don't. And I want you to stop doing that immediately. There's so many manifestation tips out there that are like, do this theory, do this meditation. Deciding you are her or him or them and living it right now is the best way to do it. So what that looks like for me is I realize, I think to myself, okay, I've gotten pretty good at going to the gym. I can stop. But these people who truly do go to the gym, these people who are legends of sports, do they take an off day besides a rest day? No. So yes, you can be mediocre. You can be, oh, it's me. I've always done it this way. But do you want your whole life to look this way? For me, I don't ever want to look at something and say, I wish I did that. I wish I could have locked in and made it like that. And it haunts me to the point I don't let it happen. I don't ever want something to drain my life force from me getting my full potential in any given situation. So, for me, again, type B, I don't like to journal about my goals. I think it's better sometimes maybe take out a piece of paper or think to yourself now, like, what are the things that just make me sick when I think about them? And I think I've said this multiple times in these videos, but like a lot of times, I've had dynamics where it's a friend or someone or something, but it's like thinking about it makes you anxious. It like raises your cortisol. And I want you to eliminate those things from your life as much as possible. And I want you to add with that new life force you have, like being able to do things that scare you in a good way. This sounds so silly, but I mean, the things I say that are silly, I know all of us have a million examples of this. I was scared to use the Stairmaster at the gym, and I thought to myself, like, somebody is gonna like see me fall. Like, I'm gonna look really silly. I'm gonna be breathing and panting. And I think a big exposure therapy or failure therapy, whatever it is, telling yourself that's okay. Recently I've tried to talk to more people and things like that. And, sometimes they don't want to make friends. And that doesn't mean you're terrible and you failed and you should never try again. It just means, okay, you're not missing out on your best friend ever with that person. That's literally all that means. So I really encourage you to relieve your own places. You're selling your own energy short and stifling who you were put here to be. I think, honestly, if you are an organized person, systems can be a good way to help that. I'm not very big on systems. I probably should be. But my system of every day after school or work or whatever I'm doing, I go to the gym, And that for me is a system where it addresses mental, physical health, socializing, a hobby. I'm able to think, and I'm actually able to. Another thing too is like, I think so many of us have issues because we have all this information. And this is another thing too. I'm not going to say delete all your social media, but be very mindful. I would say I ebb and flow of moments where I'm like, there is no reason I need to be looking at memes or TikToks if I have, other stuff to do, or I could be resting. I try to save those things as like a coping mechanism for if I'm really having a bad day and just want to unwind. But I think you need to be mindful that you really only need numbing coping mechanisms about 2% of the time. There's days that are so bad, I'm like, I'm just gonna eat a bunch of snacks. But then I want you to like pay attention to the fact that you're allowing yourself to lose control. It's not that you don't have self-control, it's that you don't want it. And that's the problem. So many people, they want to be fit, but they don't want to. You know what I mean? Like, they want the outcome, but they don't want the process to get there. So at that moment, I say, don't say you want it. It's like someone asking you, oh, what can I do to improve this? And you tell them, and then they're like, I don't want to do that. You don't want it that bad then. So you better let it leave your brain. And I say to the person who does not try new things, does not evaluate where their energy is going and what things might be siphoning it, are you okay with the rest of your life looking exactly like this? I think deep down, a lot of us have dreams that our life will change in some way, and so many people simultaneously make no steps to get it. The funny thing I've learned about affirmations and manifestation is like when you decide you're living that life, you are. There are very few things in a modern society of a developed world that you cannot achieve without, just trying, bare minimum trying, using the internet to help you, using the internet to network. And for me, even this channel has become that, or getting fit at the gym, or I wanted to dye my hair fun color, so I did it. It's like I used to sit around and feel so helpless, waiting for someone to tell me I needed to do something. And then when a lot of my friends moved away and I realized like things were changing, I'm growing up, like no one's going to tell you. You'll just sit and feel envy, feel insecure. You'll be missing out. And so it's really on you to say, no, actually, I want to live like this and I want to live like this right now.